The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by TheOp, also known as USAopoly.
The Dice Tower, episode 715. To expand or not to expand?
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, heads up, folks, we've got a lot of roll and writes that we're going to be chatting about. I've got a new app I want to share with y'all, and Mandy and I are finally going to get some Q&A in to wrap up the episode. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of the Dice Tower podcast. Woo, woo, woo. That's I don't know. I feel like a Muppet today a little bit. That was like my Mike Kermit intro.
A Muppet? Oh, I see. When he does the whole crazy
yeah,
thing.
Exactly. Gotta love the Muppets.
Yes.
All right, Mandy. I hope that you have written down every word for butterfly that you've ever gotten. Remember, all of this started with your simple review of Mariposas and understanding that the word butterfly around the world is different and that they're all beautiful. I know you got at least one more for us. Come on.
I do, and I have been tracking them. I have all the emails saved, and then I'm going to put them in a spreadsheet. I've just been a little busy, so it's getting there, but I do have them all saved. So this one is from Max and Lena. Thank you for sharing the butterfly translation to Belarusian. And hope the pronunciation's correct. I looked it up. I had a hard time with this one. So it is Matdil. Matdil. So I hope I said that correctly. But it's funny. I'm finding some similarities in spelling or pronunciation in certain countries. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds a little similar to this. Or I was watching a show the other day. Is it Dutch? Vlinder, I think. Correct. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I was watching it and I was like, I know that word. I know that word.
Yeah,
and I was so excited because I recognize the word. So I know people love sharing things from their language, and I love hearing about it. So thank you, everybody. But I think that I think is the last one to date.
Excellent. And, you know, you and I got to play some games recently, but we'll chit-chat about that. But I love that you and I got to play Railroad Ink Challenge. We talked about this last episode that we were together too, but it's out now on Steam and on iOS and Android from Horrible Guild. This is an app version of Railroad Ink, and it is buttery smooth. And Mandy, you and I got to play it with the Horrible Guild team as kind of a celebration of the app release. And that was so much fun. We got to play with Yomar and with Lorenzo, the two designers of the game. I'm sorry if this feels name droppy, but they were just celebrating the app release. So the designers were there.
Exactly.
Now this is where I get to, this is where you can send me emails on this because I understand. I did manage to beat one of the designers' scores. And I'm going to wear that as a little badge of honor for a long time in my heart.
I mean, I think you should. That is something to be celebrated. And just in case you all wanted to know, I didn't win at all. Not even close.
But Mandy, the bigger question is, did you have any fun?
Oh my goodness, I always have fun. And I have to tell you, that's one of the teams that I always love streaming with. We always have fun, even though my scores are always atrocious. Doesn't matter because I'm having fun with everybody. And I swear that app is addictive. I've been playing that right before bed.
It is
every night.
Yep. So that's available now for everybody. And hey, if you want to learn how to play it or watch some goofiness with the game designers, you can check out the Horrible Guild YouTube channel, and the live stream is up there for you to rewatch if you want to take a peek at that. It was pretty fun. I liked it a lot.
Well, I know I've talked about Ticket to Ride, and now I don't hate it. Let's be clear. People think I hate it. I don't. It was just one of those games I think I played too late in my gaming years. Does that make sense? So when I played it, I was like, it's fine, it's good, but I kind of progressed to other things.
Sure.
It looks like I'm taking some steps back here because Mumsy, my mother, loves Ticket to Ride. She's like, ooh,
Aww.
I like that. She's like, I like that train game we played. That was fun. I like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I know. I was like, okay, well, this is good. She's competitive, so she wasn't happy that she lost. But she's like, we need to play this again. And the reason why I'm talking about it now is because I have a copy of Ticket to Ride Europe 15th anniversary, and it looks so nice. And I think that she will like some of the things that this adds to the game. So I think I've only played the Europe one a few times. Have you played this one, Suzanne?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's a popular map from what I garnered from everybody. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to trying that, and then I hopefully soon can play it with my nephews because I think they would also enjoy it. So I find the anniversary editions of these games are very nicely done, so I'm looking forward to trying that. So more coming soon on thoughts on Ticket to Ride Europe 15th Anniversary. See what Mumsy thinks.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's a gorgeous edition. I still have my Ticket to Ride 10th Anniversary that had like all the fancy trains and stuff, and it's a really nice... It's really cool.
Absolutely.
And, hey, we got episode polls, folks. So, last episode, Cold and Chunky. Apparently some of y'all like that title. Thank you. It's kind of fun. And really, we were asking, when you eat your ice cream or sorbet or non-dairy equivalent, and, respecting all of the low sugar options as well. But when you got something cold that you're scooping into a bowl, do you like it smooth or do you like some texture in it? Do you like some little add-ins, some little chunky bits, some little nuts or pretzel bits or things like that? Real simple. Do you like it creamy or do you like it chunky? Well, we popped that up there. Y'all, I'm very proud of you. You voted the right way because almost 60% of you said chunky time.
Yes, with lots of S's. Yes.
Oh my gosh, right? A lot of love for Ben and Jerry's in the comments. I was seeing Chunky Monkey and Fish Food and Americone Dream, which is one of my personal favorites. I love that. That is so up my alley. Cherry Garcia. Oh, now, darn it. Now I really want ice cream.
I know, and it's funny because Ben and Jerry's, it's a thing here. I don't think it's as big as in the States, but we do have it here in the grocery stores and whatnot. But I mean, for those who do enjoy, the Laura Secord ice creams, those are big in Canada. Crunchy chocolate chip is my favorite. Chocolate chip cookie dough, so good. I just love the bits of things in it. And Heavenly Hash is also a favorite, but I think that one's a Haagen-Dazs flavor that I really like. So...
Oh, okay. Mandy, do you like pistachios? Do you like pistachio ice cream?
I love pistachio ice cream. It's
all right.
So good.
This is why we're friends.
So good.
Good girl. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. We know it's a silly one, but come on, we're all getting to know each other. And I'm glad to know that I'm sitting with 60% of y'all on that side. Not that there's anything wrong with a beautiful smooth ice cream.
Sure, absolutely.
And this episode, we're back to some game topics. To expand or not to expand? All right, you got a game. You like that game. An expansion comes out. Do you get the expansion or not?
But I feel like you need to say that more Shakespearean.
Oh. Well, Mandy, do demonstrate, please. Teach me, guide me.
Jeez, I thought you were going to do it, but all right. To expand or not to expand? That is the question.
I'm really sad that this is a podcast because Mandy and I record on a video chat, and she was selling it with the body language and her eyes, the intensity, folks. You got to answer this one. You got to vote in this poll.
Dramatic pause. That's what does it.
Because I know, Mandy, you and I have some opinions about that, and we are going to be talking about an expansion coming up that we just got to play together. And I think it kind of just toggled that thought about let's figure out where people stand with so many games coming out. And some really great ones out there. Where do you all sit? So let us know. Like usual, we will pop up a poll onto the Dice Towers Board Game Geek Guild. And you should dive in there. You should cast your vote and leave some comments and expand on your thoughts there. It's really, really fun to read all of those. Speaking of expansions, Mandy, let's get to it because I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this one.
Me too.
So, what have you been playing lately?
All right, everybody. I had quite a few games that I played. I actually had so many I couldn't fit them on the list. I'm like, wow, this is a first in a long time. But we were talking about expansions earlier, so I said, well, I must talk to you about the Magnificent Sno. So Sno is the expansion, and this is designed by Eilif Svensson and Christian Amundsen Otsby. art is by Germund Bunn and Martin Motet, and it is published by TheOp.games and Matago. The price is $66 for the base and $33 for the expansion. Canadian. I think it's pretty close to that in the US, but I don't know internationally. Suzanne, you might know internationally what it costs.
What? Don't put me on the spot. I don't know. I don't know anything.
I know you buy more
it's
internationally.
$60 in the US. Yeah.
Okay.
Retail
so
$60 in the US.
All right. So it gives you an idea of what you're looking price-wise. I believe the base game was 1 to 4 players, but the expansion does add a 5th player. So it is 1 to 5 and plays in about 60 to 120 minutes. So the Magnificent, let's just give you an idea about that game. Spoiler, I really liked that game when it came out. We got it, I think it was a couple years at Essen. So good. I know it's dark coloring on the board, but I loved it. I was like, I love the art. I love the idea, because in the game, you're trying to perform and attract audiences, get them to your shows. And this is where you have different areas of the board that you can portray these performances. So you have posters and things that you're trying to accomplish. You have a little area on your board that takes kind of Tetris-like pieces on the board, and that'll help you complete these posters. We have dice in the game that you're going to take to help you take actions. And we have, I always get these wrong, MasterCards, I believe, are the ones that I always get confused. MasterCards are the ones that allow you to take these actions, and scoring at the end of the game. So quick overview of the game. On a turn, you're taking a die, and there are different colors of dice. So this is important to know. And depending on the color of your dice, this is going to affect how much you're going to pay at the end of that round. But when you take a die, the power of that die is the power of the action that you're going to be able to take. And there are several different types of actions. Some include putting on a performance. Some include putting out those Tetris tiles on your board, because those, again, are used to complete posters. That's a requirement. You can travel, there's a little card on the board, and there are 3 tracks. You can travel, and traveling gets you tenths. Tenths are things you put under posters, so you can get more bonuses, and traveling gives you gems, so which you, again, can use to help complete posters, or at the end of the game, fill in spots on your board that you might have missed with your shapes. So that's the game, and it really hasn't changed that much with Snow, but in the Snow expansion, you're getting extra parts, so you can now play the game with 5 players. And we're also getting new master cards, which are going to give you new types of bonuses and ways to score. We played with the master board, which is it adds an action, actually, to your turn. So that's something that is different from the original game. So you can either take that action from the board or take the tile and do nothing with it. I mean, obviously in our game, it benefited us to do it, but that is something that can take away from you maybe getting that die that you want to take your actions. At the end of round, you do end up having to pay a cost for dice you're taking, so that can get pretty tricky, but some of these new cards have different ways for getting you points at end of game. I'm trying to think, did we get any other new tiles? We have the Snow cards. So those are other posters that have come in with the expansion that you add in the poster row that you can select from. And with that, there are new tiles, new kind of white cross tiles that you can use to accomplish those specific cards. That's it. And I think it ends after 3 rounds. Is it 3 rounds?
Yep. Same as the original game. Yep.
So
3 rounds done.
It's tight. I have to tell you, this is a game where you're like, this is me. I'm going to spend all the money so freely because I'm rich. And then I'm like, round 2, okay, I'm broke and I'm going to lose points if I don't get some money here. It's like desperate times. So it gives you that illusion, right, that you're going to make all this money. But then you quickly see how, you got to stay on top of your finances. So economically, it is tight in that respect, but not tight to the point of suffering, if that makes sense. There are some games that are so tight to the point of you're like, how...
It doesn't feel punishing. I would agree. Yeah.
Like you're going to be stuck in this jam forever. You just have to be smarter with your decisions now. So I like the fact that the rounds it's only 3 rounds in the game, because it really makes you amp up your game really fast and get on it. Like there's no fooling around. Yes, you can change your tactics as you go, because there are so many things to do. But I mean, at the end of the game, you really want to make sure you're filling in that board and getting those posters done. I mean, those are what are going to really get you those points. I don't generally like expansions. Like I shouldn't say that I don't like them. I don't have time. I don't play a game
I think that's it. Yes.
enough for me to warrant an expansion. And I'm not talking about, I've played many games 6, 7, 8 times. For me to warrant an expansion, it means that I'm sick of it. like as in, "Ugh, I need something new from this game." And this is for me an
Interesting.
issue. But in this game, I didn't mind this expansion because it wasn't like a completely new game. I find sometimes expansions come in and change the game completely. And you're like, yeah, but I liked that thing. I just found this one kind of integrated nicely with it. Ooh, that's a new little action that I didn't see before, but it was subtle. And I'm all about subtlety. And for me, that's an expansion I can get down with. So I really like this game a lot. And for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier, component quality for the most part is pretty good. I have a thing with cards. We're going to talk about another game on my list. The cards were chef's kiss, amazing. This one, the cards are fine. Component bits are fine, wooden pieces. There's a board, like I said, that's for part of the expansion. It's fine. It's a thicker cardboard. It does do that thing sometimes, where those boards have an issue lying flat on occasion.
Oh, okay.
Mine does. That could just be my specific copy. But I don't know if I would have done it a different material, but I don't know what else you could have done. Maybe a mat? I don't know. Just throwing it out there. But then costs change. I like the contrast between the game being all the dark, dark, dark kind of colors and then the snow expansion, which is completely the opposite.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yep.
So I really like that. And it's funny, I had a friend, David, who said the initial game looked like, when you change your settings on your computer to high contrast
Yeah.
and then switch it back to the regular, that's, how it kind of looked. And I could totally see that. And I know the dark is probably not going to appeal to everybody, but I think for the type of game that it was, I think it fit nicely. We had there were something with 2 players. There were a couple things that came up with the game, and I don't know if it was a wording thing that were just a bit strange, but these are things maybe that need to be clarified.
I think it was just, it just needs a BGG entry where if you had to discard a MasterCard and a trainer tile, well, wait, it says first player, but what does that mean in that situation? Is the first player to take one or the first player in the round, that kind of thing? It wasn't a big deal, and ultimately I don't think it just needs a point of clarification. Writing rules is hard.
No, it totally is. And overall, the rules are pretty good. So overall, I liked the game. Even at 2 players, I think we did really well. I think we definitely could have used some areas of the board a little better. But I thought it was easy to adjust for 2 players. Like, it wasn't extreme. And it can play with 2 players. Some games say 2, and it doesn't really play with 2. I did feel like comfortably playing it with 2 worked.
I think it plays very nicely, too. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Magnificent Snow for me. I like the addition. I like the base game, but I did enjoy the addition to the game. Suzanne, you played with me. Any quick thoughts on it, or what do you think?
Well, I want to give people a heads up that I don't know about Snow's distribution plans. So I had to order it from a French website to get it to me in Seattle, Washington, the USA. So I'm not sure if you have that Magnificent and you really want Snow, you may have to find a way to order it from overseas if you need it now.
It's on Board Game Bliss.
No.
It's on Board Game Bliss.
Oh, but Bliss is really good about that.
That's true.
I don't think it's on
other
a lot of sites, and maybe there's some local game stores that are making an effort to get it from Europe, but right now I don't think it is in distribution in North America officially. But I really liked Snow. I really liked that masterboard. I liked the masterboard edition more than I liked the Snow tiles and posters.
See?
I thought adding the tiles and the posters were fine. Nothing wrong with it. It gave you a different use for your crystal or your white dice, your clear dice. Great. But that masterboard, adding that extra action that you must at some point in your round take, but even just the timing of taking that action was interesting. And then the way the tiles work is that there's, player count +1 on the board to choose from. And then you get new ones the next round. But the way the board works is you get to see what's coming up in the next round. So you can be a little strategic about that in terms of which ones you want to take and how you want to do that. I like how it can give you a poster or a Trent tile or things like that. I think that masterboard is a great add. It definitely added something to the game and a new action. It didn't really lengthen the game significantly, but it added something compelling to me that I like. Now, is it must-have? I'm not going to tell you that. Am I glad I have it? Yes. And am I just going to mix it in and typically just play with the expansion now moving forward? Yes.
And yeah, all the points you said, 100%. I agree with you. And the master board is, you're right, and I think you used it really well. You had a couple times where you had some tiles and bang, it worked for you because you made it work with, your turn. So I really was impressed by that. For me, I liked the subtlety of the entire expansion. So for me, I think it was good. I think this is one of those games where if you wanted to play with 5 players, you're going to get the expansion, right?
Sure.
Or if you're playing it a lot. But I feel that way about expansions regardless. Something else I forgot to mention quickly is the start player has changed. In the original game, I think you roll dice to determine start player. In the expansion, it's cards when you're determining who's going to be going first. And there are some cards so first player I think gets nothing, but then there are cards for the players after that will get additional resources. So I liked that personally, getting that little extra zhuzh in the game, and then that resets and you do it all over again for rounds 2 and 3. So I think overall you can determine that we thoroughly enjoyed the Magnificent Sno.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's start talking Roland rights, folks. It's gonna happen. First one up for me. Rock the Bach. Rock the Bach. Rock the Bach. Yeah. I literally, folks, it's called Rock the Bach.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have to look up what the Bach means in German, but honestly, besides the fact that it's a roll and write, the thing that caught my eye, it's designed by Inka and Marcus Brand. The Brands, hello, of course I'm going to be interested in it. This is published by Moses Verlag, and the graphic design and art is by Creative Bunker, and I picked this up for €10, plus probably €10 shipping because I ordered it from overseas. So, I have to pay that import extra because I'm obsessed and I have a problem.
It's okay. You admit it.
Yes. So Rock the Bach plays 2 to 4 players, and it really does max out at 4. Where a lot of roll and writes have that player count flexibility, this is not one of them. You get a simple player sheet, and it's got sections for 3 rounds, so you play in 3 rounds, and each section just has 3 rows of icons. A wolf skull, a buck skull, and a doe skull. Because the aesthetic of this game is all skulls, wildlife skulls, icons, which is an aesthetic and okay, so be it. And then you get 10 custom dice, and on those dice are 1 buck, 1 wolf, and then a doe in each of the player colors, red, yellow, green, and blue. So what's going to happen is on your turn, you are going to roll all the dice that are available to you, and then you're going to pick one quote-unquote color to mark in. Now, if I take a buck, then I would mark off that many bucks. So I have to take all the bucks. So if there's 3, I mark off 1, 2, 3 bucks. Then I mark off on my sheet that I used 3 dice. And then it passes to the next turn. Now, let's say I picked wolves. Oh, there's 2 wolves here. I'm going to tell, let's say Mandi. You mark off 2 wolves on your sheet. And then I mark off that I did 2 dice. And it keeps on going around that way. The next time it comes to me, however many dice I marked off in the previous round, however many I used, I have to subtract that from the number of dice I get to roll this time. So slowly, round out or turn after turn, you are reducing the number of dice you personally get to roll. So there's some asymmetry in terms of like, Mandi, maybe you're rolling 8 dice on your turn, maybe I'm rolling 5 dice on my turn, that kind of thing. Ultimately, when the round ends and everybody's gone through their dice and they've winnowed their dice all the way down, you will score points based on what you've marked. If you have more wolves than bucks, then your does will count as negative points. If you have more bucks than wolves, your does will count as 1 point each. If they're tied, you get 0 points. You play 3 rounds of that, and whoever has the highest score at the end of the game wins. I kind of feel like the brands have this multi-track thing. Like with Rajas of the Ganges, you have those 2 score tracks, and they go around, and then they collide, and that's... It almost feels a little like that in a different form here with Rock the Bach. I just like saying it. Rock the Bach. Because you've got these 3 different tracks that you're managing, and you've got this weird dice economy that you're managing as well. You got to get into it. You got to know you got to get a feel for it. You don't know what you're going to roll. You have to just go with the flow of the dice here. There's no mitigation. The mitigation is you pick which dice cluster you're going to use. This game is so mean. And I will say, I think it may cross the mean line for me.
Oh, really?
Because, and I'm usually okay with some take that in a game, but this one is brutal. And I think especially, like in a 2-player game, it is what it is. It's just kind of a back and forth. I actually think it's going to be better at 2 players because you don't have a choice in who you target with the wolves. But in a 3 or a 4-player game, you roll the wolves, you take 3 wolves, you are choosing one of your 3 opponents to target with those wolves. And that is a big ouch. And, I could see, like, depending on your group dynamic, you could get some metagaming in there, and you can have, like, old grievances. Well, when we were in 3rd grade, you took the last popsicle, and I really wanted it, and I'm going to throw these 3 wolves at you now. This game is so mean, and it can have some king-making, because there's a scenario where, man, if you're red and Tom is yellow, and I choose the red dice, I'm boosting you because I don't mark the red dice on my sheet. You do. So if I pick the red dice, even though it's my roll, you get the benefit of the red does. So yeah, it is a game where you definitely all need to be on the same page in terms of how you play with and against each other. You have to understand that there is some hardcore direct take that, which interestingly enough, a lot of people complain there's not enough player interaction in roll and write games. Well, this one definitely has player interaction.
Right.
So knowing all of that going into it, it is, interesting as you're picking the dice and you're making those choices. But for me, I gotta say, I'm really, really sad because I'm such a fan of the brands overall. Rock the Bock, awesome name. Probably not one I'm going to put to the table a lot. We'll also point out that the iconography is cool looking. Like the skull illustrations and icons definitely look cool. They're very, very tiny though, so you don't get the benefit of the quality illustration. And they're very hard to see if you're not using like a felt tip marker to mark them off. If you're using like a ballpoint pen or something, you're like scraping it all out to make sure to see. And that's just a usability UX thing that I was kind of disappointed in. That you often get with roll and write games, but something that I noticed on Rock the Bock especially, it was really hard to keep track and visually quickly see what you were marking off because of the darkness of the sheets. But Rock the Bock, if your group likes roll and writes and you love Take That, and you want to like maybe fight out some old grievances, but not with fists, but with dice and pens, then maybe Rock the Bock is the perfect game for you.
Oh dear. Yeah, I think this would not go over well with my game group. They are not big on any kind of take that or just kind of games where you have to be quote unquote mean. I don't know why. And it's not like we're mean people. And I know playing with these people, they would never intentionally, you know what I mean? But you feel bad. And you never want to feel bad when you play a game. How long does it take to play?
30 minutes.
30 minutes? Okay.
So it is. That is one nice thing. It's super quick.
Okay. Good to know. Rock the Bock. I like it. I was trying to make it work with Rock the Casbah, but too many syllables. Sorry. Well, we went from Rock the Bock to cats. Meow. I think we all like cats for the most part. So the game, if you haven't figured it out already, that I'm going to talk about is called Cat Sudoku. So this is a game I backed on Kickstarter. I think it was like a few months back. It might be longer than that. Super cute, but we're going to talk about that. Designed by Tate Wu. Art is by Kayami and published by Sunrise Tornado Game Studio. So it retails on Canadian sites that we have here for $25, and it plays 1 to 6 in about 15 to 20 minutes, and it would be classified as, would you say, well, I guess you could say roll and write-ish? I don't know. How would you classify this particular one? It's Sudoku, but you're rolling dice.
What are you talking about, Mandy? Of course it's a roll and write. You are rolling dice and you are writing on a sheet. It's the essence of, it's literally.
But I feel wrong. I feel wrong calling it a roll and write because Sudoku on in general is not really a roll and write. So.
Oh my goodness. It is a roll and write.
I think it's just because I'm really bad at this game. I'm trying to find an out. So there you go.
Fair enough.
So here we are. So players in this game You're rolling 4 dice. So thank you to Monique for showing me this game, because I had it sitting there for a while and I hadn't had a chance to play it. So thank you for that. But in the game, you're rolling 4 dice, and at the same time, everyone is going to write the numbers on your puzzle paper. So for those who are familiar with Sudoku, and I think it's the same rule that applies here, you can't have numbers on your sheet that are, okay, I'm going to try to remember this because I'm really bad at Sudoku in general. You want to try to avoid having the same number in the same row, column, or adjacent to each other. Wow, I think I covered them all. That's a lot. There are breaks in the sheet, so you do have some spaces where if two groups in a column are beside each other, but there's a space, then technically the numbers at the top and the end of that are not going to be touching, so they're a completely different grouping. The reason why you don't want to do that is because you're going to get negative points at the end of the game, and well, I got quite a few, but that's okay because I still had fun. The dice are interesting because you can actually, I think this was my favorite part. I love that you can make them wild depending on what number you select. At the top of the sheet, they have all the dice listed, and you can actually decide, I got a lot of 3s here. I'm going to make the 3s wild. So then we can put them as any number. So I thought that was very helpful in the game. You don't have them all game to do that, but you do have the opportunity to do that for each number, and then I think 2 additional numbers if I'm off the top of my head. You do have the seasons of sheets, and what I mean by that is each sheet represents a season. So I believe the difficulty increases depending on which season you are doing. Of course, I've been playing the easy one a lot until I get higher than 60. That's where I'm going to stay. So the game finishes when you've basically, so many rounds, and your sheet will be, for the most part, full if you haven't made any mistakes. Oh, boy. I liked this game. So I am not good at Sudoku in general. So, I was helped by dice having wild numbers to help me fill in some things, yet I still made mistakes. But here's an example of a game where it's, for the most part, I'm going to say the rule set is fairly simple. Playing the game is a whole other thing.
Yes.
Right? Because I thought I was doing so well, and I'm like, oh, shoot, there's a 6 there. Oh, wait, it's beside this 6 over here. Oh, for goodness sakes. And you don't see it when you're playing because you're concentrating so hard on trying to place everything. And I think that's great that it makes the brain work. Not a game, believe it or not, that I'd want to play late at night, even though it only takes 20-ish minutes to play. I don't mind playing this at 10 o'clock at night because it burns like my face. You can't see it right now. I'm like melting it with my hand. It's so melty and burny for such a short game. But it's fun, and it's cute because it has cats. So I know I had to throw that. I don't even own a cat, but hey, it's cute. So Cat Sudoku, I think you've played it, Suzanne, have you not?
Oh, yeah, a ton. Yeah.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on it? I have only played the easy sheets. I don't know if you've played the more difficult one.
Yeah, they get harder, and it is definitely simple rules, hard to master. You got to work with those dice and take advantage of the wilds. I love it. It's very good. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it definitely can be quite diabolical as you realize your failure to plan appropriately, but that's okay.
Exactly. So don't disregard it for people like, I only play heavy games, and hey, that is a-okay. This one might be nice for your palate. I think you should definitely take a look at it. So that is Cat Sudoku.
Swinging on over from cats to an octopus. Why not? Ramen Ink. This one is designed by Daryl Chow. The art is by Marcus Urt, and it's published by Jumbo, which I think is a Spanish publisher. I'm honestly not sure. My apologies. And I picked this one up for €11. Again, with that lovely shipping fee to the US. But this one, Jumbo's been making a big move in the roll and write space, and they've released 4 or 5 in the last year. And they're definitely worth taking a look at, including Ramen Ink. Now, Daryl Chow is a designer that I'm already quite fond of, and I think does a lot of fun games. So I was excited to check this one out. In Ramen Ink, you've got round cards, and you get a little player sheet that has what looks like little bowls around it. And then you actually use the box lid a little bit here. When you flip over the box lid, there's an octopus in there with its arms stretching out and some numbers. And what you're going to do is that there are order cards. You're going to randomize these order cards and lay 8 of them around the box. And the box helps you keep track which order belongs to which number. And then you've got ingredient cards. The rest of the deck is ingredient cards. And you're going to flip over ingredient cards, player count +1. and then you're going to draft them. When you draft a card, you either get 2 ingredients that you can put in any bowl, or you get 3 ingredients that you must put in adjacent bowls. Great. The 1 card that's left over for ingredients, everybody must mark that card. So there's a lot of games that use that, where you draft and then the 1 remaining everyone gets, and that's what Ramen Ink does here too. What you're trying to do is you're trying to fulfill these order cards. So maybe an order card says you need these specific ingredients, like an egg and a fish cake and nori. Or maybe there is an order that they just love nori. Just throw a bunch of seaweed in there and you're going to get points for all the seaweed. Or maybe there's one that says it wants 3 of a kind. So it doesn't matter what ingredient it is, but they want 3 of a kind in that bowl. You're going to play through, I think, 8 rounds. Because, again, this whole 8 theme with the octopus, 8 legs, 8 orders, 8 rounds, that kind of thing. Add up all the points that you get for fulfilling orders. The highest score wins. Some twists in this one. Orders start disappearing. I guess your patrons get impatient. So in the 3rd round, order number 1 gets removed. So if you have not fulfilled it, bye-bye. You're not going to get any points for that. Round 4, order number 2. So these orders start disappearing. And at the end of round 8, you only have, I think, a couple left that you can still be working on. So that's something that really amps up the pressure in how you're assessing the board and choosing your ingredients. The adjacency thing actually can be quite tricksy. And certainly there are situations where you don't have the card out available in the draft row that you really, really want, and you have to make the best of a bad situation kind of thing. I like Ramen Ink a lot. I actually think it's a lot of fun. It definitely has that pressure with the orders disappearing. And when you teach it, there's like little things I haven't talked about. Like you can throw away ingredients if you don't want to use them, but that comes with a penalty potentially, and there's like bonuses you can achieve. But when you teach the game, you really want to make sure that people understand finishing orders, filling those bowls is super important. And that timing is super important, and making the most of that is critical, because if you don't fill orders, you're going to have a really low score. So it's one of those little things that, like so many games, if you know how to play, you're going to have an advantage because you know how to play, and if you don't. But there are little tips you can give new players to help even the playing field a little bit. Ramen Ink has one of those. You got to fill those orders. Don't worry too much about perfecting patterns all the time. Get some points on the board. Serve up some ramen. One other little detail is there's only 4 ingredients. There's nori, fish cakes, chashu, which is like pork slices, and egg. So they have little icons that you can draw. So you're not writing things in, or you're not marking, just putting X's through things. You're drawing little ingredients in the boxes. I always like roll and writes where you're drawing things. It adds a little spice and fun, and Ramen Ink has that as well. There are 16 recipe cards, but you only use 8 in a game, and they're randomized every game, right? You shuffle them up and just deal 8 random ones around. So that is a way that they add some variability between games. And really, Ramen Ink, solid little card drafting roll and write game. I really enjoyed it. I have no idea what their plan is to get this beyond European audiences. You can order it like I do on foreign websites if you live in the North American region. Or if you live in Europe, you can check it out pretty easily there. But Ramen Ink, I liked it.
No, it sounds fun. It sounds like, I don't know if you know the video game Overcooked. So it sounds like Overcooked, but not with the, real-time speed element.
I love Overcooked. Yeah.
Which is good for me, because I don't love speed games. So this sounds really fun. And it's about food. You were talking about fish cakes, and I was like, I feel like having fish cakes tonight now. So Ramen Ink, adding to the list. The last game, everyone, I'm going to talk about. I need a moment here. I haven't enjoyed. I don't even care that I'm starting with my thoughts first. Just saying. I haven't enjoyed a game solo like this in a long time. Well, we all know I don't like to play solo regardless, but
sure.
This was just, okay, I'm ready. It's something. We're going to talk about this, and Suzanne's going to jump in too because Suzanne is the one who kind of walked me through.
I think Tom and Eric have talked about this game before,
sure.
but
so I won't go
this
too.
is your first crack at it.
Yeah, I won't take too deep in it. But Destiny's designed by Mikhail Golubiowski and Filip Mlunsky. Art is by Karolina Jedzierczak and Magdalena Leszczyńska and Irek Zielinski, and it's published by Lucky Duck Games. Retails for about $50 Canadian, which I was surprised at, actually. That might even be a little bit more because I had to get it from their site. It plays 1 to 3, which is not a common number that you see, and 90 to 150 minutes. So I'm not going to go into too many details about it, but it's a story-driven adventure exploration game where they're using an app, but it's a board game. So in the game, you're taking the role of a hero. You have a quest that you have to fulfill, a destiny that you have to fulfill. And there are 2, I think. You have 2 destinies on your cards there that you have to decide which one you're going to fulfill.
Yeah, either one can win you the game, yes.
Right, exactly. So that leaves you with lots of options. And, there are different locations you can travel and visit and people, talk to them. And if you're familiar with Chronicles of Crime, you'll know that they use an application for that. And it is the same thing here, similar type of app. And I really like it because it really guides you through the game. So jumping all over, I'm getting ahead here. So the game ends once you've either, finished. I guess you win is more or less where I'm going with this. If you complete your destiny, you don't win if you don't. So this game can go long, like my solo adventure took a little longer, but I was taking my time and perusing and reading. And I like to read things aloud in a voice. I know it's weird, but,
No, it's fun.
It's fun. I like that. This game, oh my goodness, so good. So good. I like storytelling type games if I'm going to play something solo. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to rely on running 5 characters or doing this on the board. It's me, my character, my story. That's all I have to worry about. And then the app was so good at walking you through, setting it up. And if you have to do this, place this token here. I loved it. It was so amazing for that. Now, once you make a decision in the game, there's no coming back. So I can be that well, maybe I'll do that. No. Once you hit that button, you're in there, you're doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
Keep in mind. But I really felt like I play RPG video games, and it really had the same kind of sense, but a board game. And I didn't find the app to be intrusive. It was nice to kind of guide you along. If you had to scan cards, based on an objective you were trying to fulfill or something to that effect, it was minimal that you were actually on your phone, right? The things, the story was on the story was on the phone or device that you were using, but you could read it or have it read to you, which is nice for accessibility. So I was like, this is great. So for me overall, I just wanted to tell you all, I really, really like this game so much. It's on my table right now. I was like, I don't really have time to play it, but I kind of want to, so I might put off some work so I can do another run. And even solo, you could play it with somebody as one character. That's something Ashley and I've done before. Suzanne and I were doing that when I was first running through it. And I thought that was really great. So long story short, it's so good. If you haven't had a chance to try it, at least try it, especially if you're into story-based games. I'm sorry, I have all good things to say because it's so good. The components were great. As I'm punching it out, holy moly, so thick. All the pieces were thick. The cards.
Yeah, the cardboard pieces are nice, yeah.
I have a thing with cards. These cards are like the cards of my dreams. Love it. Textures, so good. Anyway, I'm going to stop ranting about it. Destinies, amazing. Suzanne, I'll let you say a little bit because you've played it, I think, more than I have.
Sure. Yeah, I love Destinies. I got to play a prototype ages ago, and I loved it then, and I saw the potential. And honestly, seeing where they were with the prototype versus where they are with the final product, they definitely improved it and made a good game even better. What you were saying about playing it solo, I actually have friends, Josh and Melissa, who are thinking about doing one character solo and then doing another character solo through the same scenario just to kind of hit different story points and things like that, because you definitely can miss things. And this is one of those games where there's spoilers and we don't want to spoil you, so we're trying to talk around that a little bit. But my biggest quote unquote complaint about Destinies is I don't love the setting. I don't that medieval kind of European Gothic thing. Not my preferred setting. I don't have any, it is what it is.
Sure.
but I still love this game so much in spite of that. That's how much I love the game mechanically and how much I think Lucky Duck has brought to it. It elevates it above even my kind of like apathy around that setting. I know they have this expansion that's already in the works. I don't know if that's changing it up, but it sounds like it may be ocean-oriented, maybe. I'm not sure, but I'm really excited about that. And similar to how they've announced that they're doing Chronicles of Crime system, but in a more family-friendly setting, I really, really hope that Lucky Duck runs with the Destinies system and puts stories and games in other settings to make it even more approachable and to add even more variety, because it is great.
So good. So Destinies, I think it's hard to get right now. I apologize. I think they are, I don't want to say sold out, but I think right now it's just difficult to find. But if you have somebody that you know that you're able to try it with them, I'll be playing it virtually live at some point. Definitely check it out. It's worth taking a look at.
To wrap up games played, I actually have an app I wanted to bring to the table. We haven't really focused on Tap That App in a while just because of timing and, bandwidth to play a variety of games. But this one, I just gotta talk about it. Roguebook. Roguebook is a fairly new release from Nacon Publishing. This is developed by the Abracam Entertainment Group. And folks, listen up. Game designer is listed as Richard Garfield. Dun dun dun! Richard Garfield made primary designer behind the game Roguebook. This is a deck building rogue-like game, which is how I would describe a game called Slay the Spire. It's how I would describe a game called Monster Train. It's how I would describe a game like Griftlands. All games I love. Where does Roguebook fit into that family? Fits in perfectly. Mandy, I feel bad that I played this in advance of you because I know you're going to want to play this. It's really good.
Okay, I'm looking it up on the Google Play Store at the moment. So please continue while I look.
Well, too bad, because it's only on Steam for Windows right now.
Come on.
Good luck looking on Google Play.
Okay. Is anybody else with me on Steam where you buy all these apps and games and have played 2 of them?
Yeah, so it is only on Steam for Windows right now at $25. They are going to be releasing it on consoles like the Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation in the future. So there you go, man.
Okay, I'm here for the Xbox version.
Now, I used a lot of jargon terms, right? Deck building, roguelike. But basically in Roguebook, you've got 2 characters. You play a main character and then you team up with another character. And then you get into a hex map with all sorts of different tiles. Some you can walk on, some you can't, and they're blocking you, which is really annoying. And you go into battles, and then you have a deck of cards that you take into those battles. Some cards can be played by one character, some cards are designed to play by the other character, and where they are in the lineup will depend on who's taking the hits, similar to a game like Monster Train. And, some of the cards are like, spend 1 energy and play this card and do 7 damage. Or maybe spend 2 energy and put an ally out, which is kind of like a base in a game like Star Realms, where it just kind of sits out there and provides a benefit and that kind of thing. And yeah, you're just walking around and beating up characters and trying to get to the big boss and beat the big boss. You're going to be earning things throughout the game. You're trying to find these pages, rogue book, story, scattered pages around the different story lands, and you're hunting them down throughout the map. You're going to be earning crystals. You can upgrade cards. Maybe you add a crystal that lets it be put back into your hand after you play it. Or maybe it adds a draw another card ability. So you're crafting cards, you're adding cards, you're gaining other abilities. And meanwhile, things you will lose. Eventually you are going to lose this game. But you've earned some bonus points throughout your play that will carry over to your future play. That's the roguelike, where some elements carry over between games that kind of build your character up over time. The map element is interesting. You have a limited amount of paint brushes that let you expose new tiles and expose new areas. Maybe you'll expose the health potion area. Maybe you'll expose the gem area. Maybe you won't. And then, ouchie. Roguebook, if you have played Slay the Spire, Monster Train, any of those, there's a formula in place that should feel somewhat familiar, but without a doubt, Roguebook takes elements from previous games and adds something new and outputs a really fun compelling digital game experience. Art style is a little bit cutesier, a little bit more cartoony than something like Monster Train or Slay the Spire, so aesthetically it may appeal to people. That map exploration, I think, is going to be a make or break for some of y'all. For me, I'm okay with it. I do have frustration. Sometimes you spend a paintbrush and you don't get anything for it, like the map you expose is kind of just a dead zone, and that's frustrating. But then, hey, you just got to work with it, try to build up your character for your next run, that kind of thing. I really like Roguebook. I will always look at anything Richard Garfield does, because Richard Garfield is an amazing game designer. And I think that Roguebook is just another example where he can bring something special to a game that, even though there are other games like it, it still manages to set itself apart in a number of ways. So that's Roguebook, currently only on Steam for Windows, but coming out to consoles in the near future.
So, yes, I have put it on my add to wish list in Steam. So, any of my friends looking, wink, wink, there's a nice gift for me. I'm just kidding. I'm going to wait and see, because I have so many games I have to play, but this sounds super fun. And it's 29 Canadian, just in case anybody in Canada is thinking, I might want it.
It's been some time since we've done some Q&A and we've got some emails building up. So we're just going to wrap up the show answering some of your questions. Mandi, do you want to start us off?
Ooh, lots of good stuff. Very exciting. Brought to you by TheOp.games, also known as USAopoly. Today's featured game is The Batman Who Laughs Rising. Save the multiverse and Justice League with The Batman Who Laughs Rising by TheOp. From the Dark Knight Metal comic series, the evil hybrid of Batman and Joker, the Batman Who Laughs is determined to destroy the multiverse, and the Justice League needs to stop him. In this co-op dice engine building game, gather your team and roll the dice to stop darkness from sweeping over the multiverse. Can you survive and save the multiverse? Available now at TheOp.games or at your local game store today.
Suzanne.
Mandi, Suzanne.
Suze, my dry erase pens are leaking. What do I do? What is Vital Lacerda really like?
Can you confirm or deny that cheesecake is a type of pie?
And now, the Dice Tower will authoritatively, definitely, possibly,
How do
maybe,
you carry
answer your questions.
Which way to the bathroom?
Q&A. Wow. It feels like, it's that long-lost friend. It's, hello. Hello.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Is it me you're looking for? Yes, it is you I'm looking for, Q&A. So we had a lot of questions, and I'm going to say up front, I manage a lot of mailboxes. Suzanne manages a lot of mailboxes. So if we did not get to your question today, please resend it, and we will make sure to flag it for our next Q&A. So starting off, I'm going to start off with a question that's not board game related. I know, but someone asked me on Twitter, actually, and I cannot seem to find the tweet. So I know they listened to the podcast, and they asked about Nintendo Switch apps or games that we play. And I know I had a lot of suggestions from Suzanne and other people online. I mostly play Xbox these days, but Suzanne, do you mind starting this? Because I feel like you have more off the top of your head.
I mean, I love my Nintendo Switch, and one of the cool things is that there are more and more board games coming out onto console platforms, but there's not a ton still. But things like Wingspan and Istanbul and Charterstone, those are all on the Nintendo Switch and are really, really fun to play. And I know we've talked about this before, but then, of course, games like Slay the Spire are there. But quite frankly, I've been playing a ton of, like, Pokemon Snap and games like that as well. There's been this whole debate about Breath of the Wild. I've been playing Immortal Phoenix Rising based on Mandi's recommendation. Completely obsessed with that game. That is so much fun. It's like kind of like a Breath of the Wild mimic kind of thing in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, there's just the Switch is so great because it's mobile. It's portable, right? So you can take it with you as opposed to like an Xbox or a PlayStation that's kind of cemented wherever you have it. But yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of games I typically play. And honestly, typically I like quicker kind of snackable games on a mobile platform, including the Switch, like Slay the Spire and games like that, or For the King, right, Mandi? You love For the King,
For the King's really, really
good. What about you?
Yeah, so you mentioned some. I know you mentioned a lot of the board games that I have. I have Carcassonne, but I think we've had this discussion.
Yeah.
I feel it's not quite the same from what I had before. So it's good, but it's not the exact same thing that I'm used to. Is Neo? I was gonna look into if Neoverse was on the Switch. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Yeah. Okay. So Neoverse is one that my friend David had recommended to me. Suzanne's tried it. I've tried it on the Xbox, and that might be one you might like if you kind of like a Slay the Spire and that sort of thing.
That's right. Another deck building roguelike video game.
There it is. I play a lot of. I like kind of more dark games. Wow. Every time I say that, I feel like that sounds so wrong. There's one I'm almost done. Bendy and the Ink Machine. It's a jumper. I play that and I'm like, woo, I'm jumping in my seat when I play it, but it's like retro. Cupheads is another one, but it's really hard. Is it just
Cupheads
me?
is impossible.
I like it. I love the
so
style,
hard.
but it's so hard. But I'm trying. So that's too hard. Another one is Hollow Knight was recommended to me, and I really enjoy that. And that's also on Xbox now, which I thought was really great. I play Hades actually on.
Oh, I love Hades.
Yeah, that's so good. And that I think recently is also going to be coming to consoles as well. I have a Nintendo Switch Lite. So I have the version that you cannot play on a large screen because I was using it mostly for travel. So yes, coming back to what Suzanne was saying, there are certain ones that I kind of prefer to play there and then others that I prefer to play on a bigger screen on my Xbox. Bastion is one I think you recommended to me, Suzanne. And yeah, so there's a long list. If you want more, hit me up again on Twitter. I'm sorry I missed the first one, but those are some that'll get you started.
Jonathan writes in and says, when you say that you play a game a lot, what does that actually mean? That you play a game daily, weekly, monthly? Well, I guess it's just kind of contextual, and that's probably an unfair shorthand for a lot of different things. So, for example, I am playing Marvel Champions probably 5 times a week right now. I love to knock out a game right before bed. I'll lay it out on my little coffee table and pick a couple pairs, pick a champion, pick a superhero to play against a villain and just play a quick game. I've got it down. I've got everything boxed up so it's convenient. I would say I play that game a lot. But I play other games that I would say I play a lot. Maybe I'm only playing it 2 or 3 times a year. Especially if it's a bigger one, but it's one that kind of lives in my brain and lives in my heart, and I make an effort to get it to the table. And perhaps that's too big of a swing. Maybe we need to refine our language or our terminology around that, but in casual conversation, which, Mandy and I are pretty casual here. Play a game a lot. It could mean a lot of things, actually.
Yeah. And that's,
how about you, Mandy?
No,
do you have a system?
No. I mean, yes, I have certain games that I have to review, so I might play them a set amount of times, but I think I've rarely said, well, actually, no, I've heard of say I've played it. I played it a lot. No, I've played it enough to understand it and to talk about it. So it's really hard to kind of put a number on it, I guess, but yeah, I'd have to kind of go with what your answer is because I don't really know how else to pinpoint that. Jason talks to us today about Oath, and I actually want Suzanne to comment on this a little bit because I know Suzanne has played this, I think, one more time than I have, and this is something we had talked about, talking a little bit more about on the podcast as we play. I just wanted to know if anything had been added, but see what your thoughts are. So Jason was listening to us speak about Oath and really enjoyed hearing about it, and recently played their first game of it with 5 players, but didn't have a great first play. So it was nice to hear that the game merits continued exploration. So their frustration stemmed from 2 places. They were the 5th player, so unfortunately they felt they didn't get to touch their pieces until 35 minutes into the game. And it was a learning game for 4 of them, so they hoped that it wasn't a common problem for the larger player counts. Jason's turn took a couple of minutes. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. Didn't start their second turn until an hour and 10 minutes into the game.
Oy.
Yeah. And again, took their turn 3 minutes because they had planned out in advance. The game took 3 hours, 23 minutes. And the question for us is, did you find the pace of the game snappy for a 3-player game? Maybe this one shouldn't be seeked out at 5 players? ? Secondly, because they were the 5th player, they didn't see a vision card for what seemed like ages as they were snapped up from drawing cards, so they didn't seem to have a path to follow until late in the game. So most of the turns where I'll move here, I'll stop you from doing this, I'll stop you from doing what you're doing, etc. So, questions again. Did we find the pace of the game snappy for 3 players? And is this one that should be played with 5 players?
So I've played it at 5 now. And I suspect that a lot of the trouble that you're having in that particular situation is just new players. Oath is this really weird game where the actions are straightforward, but the depth and the intricacy of the game is really, really challenging, I think, for some players, for a lot of players to grok. And that's not a denigration of the game, and it's not a denigration of the players. I think that that's part of the appeal of the game to players who really like it. So maybe that kind of intricacy isn't right for your game group. That is a completely viable scenario there. But honestly, the games get faster as people understand the game, right? That first one, you're trying to gauge all of these actions, the order that they take, whether you're trying to chase down a vision, how important is it to go after the chancellor? Do you want citizenship? Do you want to be the usurper? Do you want to chase that vision? There's so much going on. Are you card counting, and do you know what discard piles cards are in? I just don't think it is a really great first play, and that's why they kind of usher you through turns and things like that. It can take a long time between turns, but I think they will get much quicker the more experience people have. That said, your group may not. That may be a function of kind of the way that your group processes, and you should maybe be aware of that. And if that kind of downtime between turns bothers you, you might want to talk to your group about that, or look at other things. I would actually say Oath is fine at 5 players. I think it makes some of the combat over locations and sites a little more tense. I think that you have a little more coordination between players, and that's another thing too. At that player count, there should be some little temporary alliances, I think, happening. Like, okay, well, we both have to work over here, or maybe you leave me over here, leave me alone over here for a little bit so I can deal with this kind of thing. And I'll remind you, there's always that oath that you can chase as a player, even if you don't have a vision. So in that first game, just sight control. So then if you aren't getting a vision, that's where you need to pivot, right? And be like, okay, well then I'm going to start going over these sites and really do your best to gear around that. But yeah, Oath is a big chunky boy. You gotta take a bite and dig in. You know, you're there for the full banana split, not just a single scoop. We'll keep you posted as we explore it. I will very honestly tell you that in the group of 5, there was one person who said that they aren't interested in continuing in the campaign. And so whether the other 3 players and I continue on, we'll see how that goes. And they had different issues with it as well. So yeah, Oath is not going to be for everyone. I continue to really enjoy it. We'll keep you posted.
Yeah, it's an investment. This is not a type of game you can play once and decide, ooh, maybe some people might be able to say, you know what, off the bat, this isn't for me. But if you are interested in delving deeper, yes, it is going to take a few plays, I think, for you to kind of wrap your head around it a little bit and understand it a bit better. I've played it twice now at 3-player and 4-player. And I know you asked about it being snappy with 3. Hard to say. The first one was a learning game, so it did actually take us a while to play because we did have a lot of downtime, but we were learning. So I think going forward, sure, it'll probably be snappy. But I actually found our game with 4 players played faster. Now,
oh, absolutely.
We had played it before, and I think we had one person that had not played it in the group. But I definitely found with 4 players, I did like more of the interaction. So I do feel like this game, I think 4 players was a very nice spot. I have not played it with 5, so I couldn't attest to that. But as Suzanne said, this is one that we will continue to update, keep updates on the podcast once we've played a bit more.
Michael writes in and says, after listening to episode 711, I would like to hear an episode where you discuss your favorite games with art you dislike. Well, Michael says hate, but that's such a strong term. Michael says, for them, it's easily the game and its original art. The dark black and red skulls motif is so incredibly out of place for a simple cooperative game about playing all cards from 1 to 99. It's a fabulous game, but the art makes it difficult to bring it to game nights as everyone is like, what's with the skulls? Michael, I love the idea of doing, Mandy, let's do a game pie about games with, let's soften it a little bit, with games that we wish had alternate art versions, because the game is a great example. They released Pandasaurus released the game with brand new art from Kwanchai Moria, and I love that game so much. It's so beautiful and it's so fun. My family loves it. We play it all the time. And the art, Michael, you're right. It did make a difference. What do you think, Mandy? Should we do that?
Yeah, I definitely think I have a few in mind already that could definitely fit. So definitely a game pie, for sure.
Love it. Thanks.
Okay, Matthew has asked, and I think this is probably more for Suzanne, but hey, we can have a little discussion about it because Suzanne has made some great recommendations. What pens do you use for your roll and write games? And the follow-up question is, would the types of pens you use for roll and writes work in instruction booklets? Matthew's saying him and his friends are about to start The King's Dilemma and to build on the theming. They want to do any of the signings and scoring at the end in the colors of their house.
Alrighty, so my
Pause there because I
pens,
feel like there's going to be a list.
my take on pens has certainly evolved over the years. I actually buy different pens that come out and try them or listen to recommendations from other people. So it depends. It depends, Matthew. That's what I say. If you are using laminated paper sheets, I still like the Staedtler brand Lumo Color correctable pens. They come in multiple colors. They have eraser in the cap. They're fine lined and they don't smear easily. That said, some roll and write games are now coming out with kind of boards instead of sheets. And if you use a pen and you press too hard, it can leave indentations on the surface of the board, which is undesirable. And honestly, the Staedtlers are not good for those types. So there's a different brand that I need to look up right now. One moment, please, Mandy. Nobody will hear this because I'm going to edit it out. But I have to totally look it up because I have totally forgotten the name of the pens. Okay.
Works for me.
Hang in.
Will do.
I'm
Roger
looking it
that.
up. I'm scrolling. These are the secrets people don't know.
I know, right? Well, man, our brain can only hold so many things. Yee.
That's right. That's right. For those boards, I actually have found a different brand or type of pen that I like. Now, Expo markers are kind of the ubiquitous ones, but Expo markers don't have erasers in the caps, and I find that the tips can smush really easily, and they're not actually that, like, they don't hold a line that well. So I went out and I tried some various ones that I ordered up from the office store, and I found Shuttle Art or Lelix. They look identical. When you look at them, one has a white pen and one has a black pen case, but they look identical. Other than that, for all I know, the same manufacturer is making both of them and they're just rebranding them. But I found that those have a nice line. They come in a variety of colors. They have an eraser in the cap and they're softer. They won't leave indents, but they still hold the tip in the line really nicely. And then if you are writing directly on paper, I like the Friction erasable pens, Frixion. They come in a billion different colors, and it is actually a heat-sensitive ink. So the eraser is actually just a silicone nub. They work beautifully on roll and write games on paper, just straight on paper, and I love them so much. So 3 different pens for 3 different roll and write scenarios. Oh my gosh, that's super intricate. So are those good for instruction booklets? I have not played King's Dilemma. Are we talking about like keeping records in the back of the book, Mandy?
Yeah,
like
it is.
Paper?
It's like a clank sort of thing.
So if you're doing dry erase will not be appropriate for that. But if those friction pens, the erasable ballpoint pens, 100% appropriate as long as you don't like store the game in a hot car for hours where the heat could actually impact the ink. But yeah, those pens are great for that.
Yeah, and I played King's Dilemma, so yeah, that would be a good choice. Wow, that was some good stuff there. See, I'm even writing down a few pens that I now also have to go and check out. So last question for Q&A is from Jason. So Jason is very nice. Thank you and Mandy for all the work that we do on the Dice Tower. So thank you for writing in. We appreciate you. And their question is regarding multiple copies of games that work for larger groups. I've been through the top 10 best games for 5, 6, or 7, but usually those list only talks about a single game box. A few episodes, we talked about a game called Number 9 and how adding multiple copies of the game not only increases the player count, but adds depth and dynamics to the game. This I found very intriguing and began to wonder whether there are other games out there that are the same where you can use multiple copies and it would accommodate larger groups of players. So this has been a struggle of mine trying to stay away from party games whilst getting everyone together playing the same game. I am waiting for my copy of number 9 and also heard Railroad Ink can be played with multiple copies. Can you suggest any other games that do the same? And just before you answer that question, Jason is a person after my own heart. I thought I was the only one that used the word whilst. WHILST. Jason, love it. Thank you for that.
How literary.
So great. So great. I feel like this is a Suzanne question. I hate to put you on the spot, but I feel you do this more than I do. You definitely do this more than I do.
Calling me out for buying multiple copies of games?
No, you can.
I mean, it's true, I do.
So I don't want to lead you astray. I've only done it once or twice, but Suzanne is the expert here.
Oh, how very. Yeah, so now number 9 is a little unique in that you can actually double up on a single player and add some complexity and the way the game plays out. But in general, what you're talking about, bingo style games work great where everybody gets to react. And that's one thing, roll and write games. A ton of roll and write games scale so well for player count. So obviously I'm going to point you towards a number of those. But typically you don't need multiple copies because especially if they have paper sheets, right? You just throw out more paper sheets and it's not a big deal. So a couple of games I can think of. First of all, Karuba, the tile laying game from Haba, Karuba. Now there's a little bit of tweaking you need to do with the treasures that you can get, but we have played Karuba online with tons of people and it works just great that way. Another one is a game called Limes or Limes, where the cards are tiles, essentially. You have little square cards and they have a grid on them and they have different features. And so you're laying them out and overlapping them and trying to get, little areas that match. I really like Limes a lot. I have 5 copies of it. So, and that's because I'm weird and it went on sale. But honestly, you can take a couple copies and really expand the player count because it is that kind of bingo style game where one person controls and then everybody else just kind of matches it. They have their own little set of components. So that's another great example. And any game where you have one person is controlling, but a randomization element, but everybody else is reacting to it. Those are the kinds of games that I think do really, really well in kind of multiple copies scaling up for player count. Railroad Ink is another great example. Avenue's a great example. It's paper sheets, right?
Yeah.
But
Welcome to. Can you play Welcome to? I think I've played Welcome to.
Yeah, Welcome to. You can play with as many people as you have. All of those roll and writes, but I was thinking about specifically multiple copies where you need the components, not where you have like the paper sheets.
Can you do Draftosaurus?
Ooh, I don't know. I have not tried that.
We did one at...
That would be intense.
We did do one at a convention in the UK, and I'm trying to remember how it was done with like a large group. We did do it, but I think it's one that had some tweaking that had to happen.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll think about that. And if I come up with any other ones, we'll just drop them in the intro in the earlier part of the episode in a future episode. That's a great question because I love those types of games. I was on the spot. I wasn't prepared.
No, it's great.
Alrighty, folks. With that, we will wrap up. We actually skipped a couple of questions that we had in the inbox, so we will make sure to throw those into a future Q&A section. Send us more questions so that, the more questions we get, the sooner we'll probably tackle another Q&A. You can ask about pens again. I know I went through that whole pen thing really, really fast. Feel free to send me an email and I'll send you the info. You can hit me up at Suzanne@dicetower.com.
And you can reach me at Mandi, that's Mandi with an I, at dicetower.com.
As always, it is a pleasure and privilege to be podcasting with you about board games. Mandi, I know you were tired today. You did a bang-up job. Nicely done.
Oh, thanks. This is what happens when you go to bed at 4 a.m. and then have to do the podcast. But I think I did it.
You did great. Next episode, 716, Tom and Eric are going to try to get y'all some new games to check out with their favorite unknown kids games. So maybe trying to get past some of the usual suspects and highlight some new, fresh family games for you there. Until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandi, and Eric with assistance from Roy Canaday and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at podcast@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. Well, everybody, it's that time again for Two Truths and a Lie, so I will share mine from last episode. I have tried candy from Russia, I have tried candy from New Zealand, and I have tried candy from South Africa. If you said that I have tried candy from Russia was a lie, you would be correct. I have not yet tried any treats from Russia, so that's an invitation, everybody. I'd love to try some Russian treats.
I was just going to say, folks, we got to fix that. Oh my goodness. From last episode, I said, I love lemonade stands, I love garage sales, and I love bake sales. And the lie is that I love garage sales. I hate garage sales. Mostly, I hate putting them on. I have no problem with y'all who like your garage sales, but oh my gosh, I will admit, that's because I was organizing a garage sale a couple weeks ago, and I was in misery.
It's tough. Just very tough. I'm with you on that one. All right, new up for this episode. Here we go. I have locked the keys inside of the car. I have locked myself out of the house. And I have been trapped inside of an elevator.
Oh, damn.
I know. Rough stuff.
I went in a very different direction. My livestock edition. New this episode for me. I've tipped cows. I've lassoed sheep. And I've ridden a camel.
Well, that took a turn, everybody. Good luck.